Google was banned from the streets before it was banned by law. Bars in Seattle put up signs that read, "No glassholes." A dive bar called the 5 Point physically banned the device before a single unit shipped to the public. That word, glasshole, did more damage to a $1,500 computer than any competitor ever could. And by January 2015, Google quietly killed the entire program, burying a $1 billion bet on the future of human vision. This is how the most hyped gadget of the decade became the industry's biggest cautionary tale. Rewind to June 2012. Google I/O, San Francisco. Sergey Brin stands on stage wearing the prototype. Then the room goes dark. A live video feed cuts to a blimp floating over the building. Skydivers jump out. They land on the roof, wearing glass, streaming the whole descent live to the crowd below. It is pure theater. It is also one of the greatest product reveals in tech history. The internet loses its mind. Time magazine names it one of the best inventions of the year before it even ships. Vogue runs a 12-page fashion spread. Prince Charles wears a pair. So does Beyonce. So does Oprah. This is not a gadget launch anymore. This is a coronation. Google builds the hype machine on scarcity. They call it the Explorer program. You cannot just buy glass. You have to be chosen. You tweet why you deserve it. You get invited to a special event in New York or San Francisco to pick it up in person, like you're collecting a passport, not a headset. The price tag, $1,500 for a beta product, for a prototype that isn't even finished, and people pay it anyway. Developers, journalists, tech influencers, anyone who wants to be first. Because owning glass isn't about the specs. It's about being seen wearing the future before anyone else gets to. Inside Google, the confidence is sky high. This is the company that already owns search, owns email, owns half the internet's infrastructure. Executives talk about glass like it's inevitable, like smartphones are already yesterday's news. The pitch is simple. No more looking down at a screen. Information floats right in your eye line. Take a photo by blinking. Get directions without touching a device. Live inside the data stream instead of reaching for it. Nobody inside that building stops to ask the one question that actually mattered. What happens when you strap a camera to a stranger's face and send them into a coffee shop? Here's the fatal blind spot. Glass has a camera, a 5-megapixel camera, sitting right above the eye, always within reach of a single tap. And to everyone standing near a glass wearer, there is no way to tell if it's recording. No light, no sound, no warning. You are just standing next to someone and you don't know if you're being filmed. That single design decision detonates everything. Within months of the public rollout, bars start banning it outright. The 5 Point Cafe in Seattle puts a sign in the window before glass even goes on public sale, threatening to 86 anyone wearing it. San Francisco dive bars follow. Restaurants follow. It becomes a running joke, then a real movement. And somewhere in that backlash, the internet coins the word that ends up doing more damage than any lawsuit: glasshole. The word spreads faster than Google can control. It shows up in headlines. It shows up in comedy sketches. It becomes shorthand for a very specific type of tech bro arrogance. Someone who thinks the rules of basic social courtesy don't apply to them because they're wearing $800 of silicone on their face. Suddenly wearing glass in public doesn't make you look like the future. It makes you look like the villain in a privacy documentary. Regulators start circling too. Congress sends Google a formal letter asking exactly what data glass collects and how facial recognition might be built into it. Casinos ban it, worried about card counting. Movie theaters ban it, worried about piracy. The UK's own version of the DMV bans drivers from wearing it behind the wheel. In just 12 months, glass goes from the future of computing to a device you could get physically thrown out of a building for wearing. And here's the part that really stings. It isn't even that the technology fails. The camera works. The voice commands work, most of the time. It's that Google built an incredibly personal, incredibly visible piece of surveillance hardware and forgot to ask the people around the wearer if they were okay with it. Every other flop in tech history usually comes down to bad engineering. This one comes down to something much simpler. Nobody thought about the guy sitting across the table getting recorded without his consent. Inside Google, sales numbers tell the real story nobody wants to say out loud. This was supposed to be a mass-market device eventually, something that sells in the tens of millions the way the iPhone did. Instead, total Explorer units sold barely cracked the 150,000 mark, most of them to developers and journalists who got it for free coverage, not everyday people who actually wanted to wear a computer on their face at dinner. The stock of unsold hardware stacks up in warehouses while the Backlash story keeps trending online. Every week, the Glasshole narrative gets stronger. The actual sales numbers get worse. By late 2014, even Google's own PR team can see the writing on the wall. Sergey Brin, once Glass's loudest champion, starts appearing in public without it. The device that was supposed to replace the smartphone can't even survive a night out at a bar. Then, January 15th, 2015, Google announces the end of the Explorer program. No dramatic press conference this time. Just a quiet blog post, dressed up in corporate optimism, thanking explorers for teaching them how to walk, so they can now learn how to run. Corporate speak for, we're pulling the plug and hoping nobody notices how badly this went. The financial damage never gets a single clean number attached to it, because Google buries Glass inside its other bets segment, the same graveyard where moonshots go to quietly stop existing. But industry estimates put the total investment in the billions once you count the development research, the hardware tooling, the marketing blitz, and years of engineering salaries poured into a product that ends up selling worse than a mid-tier gaming console. Google doesn't kill the idea completely. They pivot hard into Enterprise Edition, selling stripped-down versions to factories, hospitals, and warehouses, places where nobody's worried about being secretly filmed by a guy ordering a latte. Boeing uses it on the assembly line. Surgeons use it in the operating room. It actually works there quietly, for years, far away from cameras and social media and public judgment. But that's not the future Google promised on that rooftop in 2012. That's a consolation prize. The real lesson of Google Glass isn't about broken hardware or a bad camera sensor. It's about what happens when a company gets so obsessed with what technology can do that it never stops to ask what it does to the people standing around it. Google built a device that assumed everyone would be thrilled to live inside someone else's camera lens. They were wrong, and the world didn't reward the boldness. It punished the arrogance, one bandbar and one glasshole joke at a time, until a billion-dollar vision of the future became the punchline nobody could unsee.